Hi everyone, it's Kara Loveheart here from Firefly Hollow Wellness Center, and I have Rissa Miller here. We're going to be talking about her upcoming course that she's teaching at Firefly Hollow, and it's creating functional and beautiful crystal grids. So I want to first talk, Miss Rissa, about what a crystal grid is. Tell us what exactly a crystal grid is.
So, without overcomplicating the idea of a crystal grid, it is simply an arrangement of stones or gems or other natural elements that speak to you with a desired result or intention. And, I feel like right out of the gate, when you say crystal grids, a lot of people are like, they're so complicated, it's so hard, there's so much math. And I'm here to say that those rules are optional. And you can create a crystal grid where you are with what you have. And all you really need to do is be able to set your own intention.
I love that because honestly, I didn't even know there was a lot of math involved. Like that was not something that I was like aware of as far as like the dogmas of like how you're supposed to do it. So
Mhm.
that's really fantastic. Now, I think when people well, like curious, and this is maybe they're new to crystal grids, and maybe they're crystal lovers or they're just getting into crystals. Like,
Right.
how can a crystal grid help people? What are the actual practical uses that people can like examples for us too?
Okay. So, I think that one of the best things a crystal grid can do is to help you clarify for yourself your intention. So, say, for example, I'm going to pick one of the most common ones that I get asked about. I would love to have a crystal grid to attract more abundance. Okay, let's just start there. The first thing people will say to me is then, do I have to go out and buy a bunch of stones that resonate with attracting wealth? I'm like, of course you don't have to do that. I mean, if it is within your budget to do that, great. But if it is not within your budget to do that, crystal grids can still help and help you make your manifestation and your intentions real. You don't have to spend money to get that desired result. I think that one of the other things that crystal grids are really good with, when you're setting an intention, say that your intention is that you want the universe to deliver more abundance to you, you learn to be specific. You could get 50 cents that you find on the street, and the universe has in fact delivered because you weren't you weren't specific with what your intention was. Maybe what you really wanted was enough money to comfortably pay your monthly expenses. But if that's not what you said and that's not what you put forward as your intention, then that 50 cents did actually answer your call. So, all of that said, I think that one of the best functions of a crystal grid is to laser focus for you where you are and what you're doing. Most of us can't even say like exactly what we want or exactly what our intentions are. But when you sit down with your stones and you work through them and you create a intentional pattern with them, it helps a lot. It works in the same sort of way that journaling might, or talking something out with a friend. And you can still do those things too, of course. But, letting your stones bring their energy into it helps too. So, one of the other things I like in this class is I bring along a lot of different stones and I bring them in their different forms. So, for example, love is a thing that a lot of people look for, either as a partner or within their family unit. So, rose quartz is a stone that people really like, and it's a lovely, gentle energy. But as you could see, there's a difference between a rough one and a polished one. And there's also a price point difference as well. So one of the things I go over in the class is, if you really want to work with this beautiful stone and have it help attract more love to you, you don't have to buy big polished pieces. You can get rough pieces. I love my rough crystals. I think they have a lot of charm. And let's face it, sometimes love can be a little, craggy. It isn't always as perfect. So the working with crystals like that can be really magical as well. And for health, I have a rough bloodstone here. It's just a specimen that's a rough bloodstone. And then I have my polished bloodstone. So a lot of folks, when they're putting together a crystal grid, they assume they need to buy these really gorgeous polished pieces. If you go
Yeah.
on like Pinterest or something, you see nothing but these fancy, beautiful grids, and they're on a carved piece of wood with all these polished stones. That's great if that's what you have and that's where you are. But if that's not where you are, start with what you have and appreciate it and then grow from there. And like I said, I also really like following the thread of what's local to this region. A lot of quartzes are local here. Pyrite is local here. Calcites are local here. Even amethyst can be found in Pennsylvania. So I go over how to go rock hounding and collect your own stones. I cover like some of the ethics of it, the best times to go, the best places to find stones. And then you can have your own collection. This is a local piece of honey calcite that is from Pennsylvania. So things like that are all possible too, and create a really unique layer, especially, there's snowy quartz everywhere around here, right? And it's
Mhm.
beautiful stone, has a lovely clarity. It's great in a crystal grid. It's great for clarifying the intentions you set with, a few polished stones that you purchase at a shop.
That's great. So, what else can we learn from this class, and how do you teach it differently? Because I know every class that you teach is always like above and beyond. Like, you're going to get handouts, you're going to get so much
Yes.
information. But what do you teach that is maybe a little bit different than any other type of crystal grid class out there?
A lot of crystal grid classes really emphasize sacred geometry. And I do cover sacred geometry, but a lot of folks I have found get really intimidated
Mm.
with even just the word geometry. When I say we're going to make a Metatron's cube, you can just watch the people shut down. So I have learned over teaching this class that I'm going to mention sacred geometry. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about why it's significant. But then I'm going to give you a lot more useful tools to create a crystal grid. Like we might make a crystal grid in the class that's hitting chakra points instead. And we might use the bagua from Feng Shui. And I'm not going to get really wrapped up in all of the itty bitty intricacies of doing a Feng Shui grid because that is a rabbit hole. But I'm going to give a bagua map of a house and say, like, all right, so one simple step is that you can pick, say, the family center, and that whole room can become your crystal grid. Like you can actually create a grid over the entire room to help create family wholeness and wellness. So I definitely don't take the same approach that most folks do with crystal grids, because I believe crystal grids should not just be art objects, that they should do their own work, that they should have space, that they need to function effectively for the person who creates them.
Yes. So, like, you're basically going to teach us how to do crystal grids on a surface, but also like
Mhm.
how to practically apply them in a
Yep.
particular room of your house. And I love
Yep.
this because you can nowadays find a lot of really nice, even bigger pieces if you really want
Mhm.
to do that to make it aesthetically beautiful, or
Yep.
just you have little guys sitting in your corners somewhere, or a particular, by this particular window at this north facing window, or whatever that represents stuff that
Mhm.
you work with the feng shui stuff. I love that. That's really awesome.
Yeah. I realized that, and like I said, I realize not everybody has a huge collection of specimens, but I feel as though that shouldn't stop anyone from being able to make a crystal grid. I feel as though just the local stones we can collect are enough. They have their own power, they have their own beauty, and it is enough to make a really effective crystal grid and to help clarify people's intentions to really go forward strongly.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to add about the class?
There is going to be that hands-on element. I definitely want people to know that I will be bringing a bunch of my stones. Like that, this is a raw septarian, and I even have a little piece of raw amber here. And I think it's a great time to be able to like get to know, like here's a smoky quartz, raw and polished, to get to know the stones and to touch them at a place where it's okay to touch them. So that way you can say like, I'm definitely going to go out looking in Pennsylvania for my own piece of quartz. This is a local piece of quartz. Um, or I'm really super interested instead in, a polished stone, but they'll leave knowing what speaks to them, what they really like, and how they can make it work in their lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that hands-on component is why it's like really important. It's a tactile, it's a sensory experience,
Hmm.
an energetic experience, why in
Yep.
person is why this class cannot be taught online. So, yeah, awesome. Well,
Yep.
this class is coming up then on September 7th. So you can register for that ahead of time, make sure before the spots get filled up. But other than that, we're looking forward to seeing you in September, Miss Rissa. And thank you guys all for listening.
Thank